Karen Carpenter, one half of the brother-sister duo The Carpenters, and the velvet voice behind hits like Close to You, Rainy Days and Mondays, We've Only Just Begun, and Top of the World, enjoyed a meteoric rise to fame in the 1970s only to literally disappear before her fans' very eyes. Carpenter was one of the first celebrities to fight a public battle with anorexia nervosa. When she lost that battle in 1983 at age 32, the medical establishment, not to mention Carpenter's family and friends, were for the most part in the dark about the disease. It's one of life's great ironies that it took Carpenter's death for people to take the condition seriously. Also ironic is that fact that Carpenter, who made a name for herself crooning about love and relationships and romance, went to her grave convinced that she herself was unlovable. Today, I will tell you more about this beautiful songbird gone too soon. Friends, before I continue, I want to ask you to subscribe to my channel. My goal is to get 1,500 subscribers by my 60th birthday. Support me just by clicking on the subscribe button. It's not hard for you to do it, and it will be very pleasant for me. Karen Carpenter was not her mother's favorite, and she knew it. Karen Carpenter was born in 1950 in Connecticut. Her family moved to Downey, California when she was 13 years old. By then it was clear that her older brother, Richard, was a piano prodigy. It was also clear that he was their mother's favorite child. It is suggested that Carpenter's struggle with eating disorders, she was afflicted with bulimia as well as anorexia, was in part a direct response to knowing that her mother, Agnes, didn't really love her. Not like she loved Richard, anyway. Carpenter couldn't control her mother's affections, but she could control her food intake. When Karen Carpenter developed eating disorder, no one knew what it was. Karen Carpenter started dieting when she was a teenager. At 5 feet 4 inches and 145 pounds, she was often told she looked chubby. As she became more and more obsessed with her food intake, she dropped down to an alarming 90 pounds. Carpenter grew up desperate for the affections of an indifferent mother, and her career as a singer was steered by her domineering older brother. Anorexia was a way, as Yahoo News points out, for her to exercise control over her own affairs, but because both medical and mental health professionals didn't know how eating disorders worked, it took longer than it should have for Carpenter to get the help she needed. By the time she did receive proper treatment, it was too late. Karen Carpenter was under her brother's thumb. Karen Carpenter liked to sing and dance, but as a young girl, she never got the kind of encouragement and praise her brother did. Richard, the apple of their mother's eye, was a Yale-trained piano prodigy. When Karen joined Richard's band just after high school, she wasn't even considered for the frontwoman role. Instead, she was thrown behind the drum kit, which, truth be told, was fine with her. She loved a good beat. Then, when that band broke up, Richard suggested to Karen they take on the world as a brother-sister duo. Their big break came quickly. In 1969, they signed with A&M Records, and while their first album, Offering, was a relative flop, their second, Close to You, was a triumph. They found themselves faded all over the country. Radio listeners loved the pair's gentle on-the-ear sound, and Karen's voice, much more than Richard's tinkling of the ivories, took center stage. Richard, used to the spotlight, wasn't always thrilled with his sister's notoriety. In fact, he was quite jealous. The Carpenters had to cancel a huge tour because of Karen's health. In 1975, Richard and Karen were poised to head out on their very first world tour, the 50 dates of which sold out in a matter of hours. It soon grew clear, however, that Karen was too ill to travel. Her weight had plummeted and she was spending 14 hours a day in bed. Karen's doctors at the time refused to let her take part in the tour, and it was canceled. According to the biography Little Girl Blue, The Life of Karen Carpenter, Richard and Karen probably lost roughly $250,000 as a result. Karen was racked with guilt over the inconvenience suffered by her record company and, of course, ticket holders, all of whom had their purchase refunded. Had the tour taken place, it was almost certain to be a record setter. Estimates suggested it would have grossed $1.2 million. In 1975, on one hand, the anxiety over the cancellation was the last thing Karen Carpenter needed. On the other, it was clear that she was too exhausted to handle the grueling nature of overseas touring. Richard and A&M executive Terry Ellis traveled to London and Tokyo to publicly apologize for the cancellation. During a press conference, Ellis blamed Karen and Karen's gender for the fallout. "Girls," he said, "just can't take that life without something going wrong." He later walked back the remark. Not so true love. Having achieved incredible professional success by her early 20s, Karen Carpenter wanted only two things to make her life complete: true love and a family of her own. She thought she was getting exactly what she hoped for in Thomas Burris, a 39-year-old real estate developer she met in June of 1980. She and Burris had a whirlwind romance and, much to the shock and dismay of some of Carpenter's friends, they decided to marry that August. Burris was handsome and, judging by his lavish lifestyle, very successful. Carpenter was completely infatuated. The infatuation didn't last long. According to this biographical excerpt, Burris confessed just days before the wedding to having had a vasectomy years earlier. Carpenter was distraught. She'd hoped Burris would make her a mother. She called her own mother, Agnes, to tell her the wedding was off. Agnes, however, thought a little thing like complete betrayal nothing in the face of the money she'd personally spent on the upcoming nuptials. She told Karen that she'd made her bed and would have to lie in it. And lie in it Karen did. She submitted meekly to Burris's physical and mental abuse and watched helplessly as he drained her bank account. She ended the marriage after barely a year, broken-hearted, childless, and robbed not only of her fortune but her belief in love. Karen Carpenter was hounded by stalkers and needy fans. As if Karen Carpenter's story weren't sad enough, she also had to contend with obsessed fans honing into her private life and pestering her with letters detailing their problems with prohibited substances and mental illness and parents who didn't love them. In this profile in Rolling Stone, Carpenter referred to the more difficult cases as the strangies, saying, "They ask for advice that I'm not capable of giving. Because I'm not a doctor. It's hard to tell someone how to live their life even if you know them, let alone if you've never seen them." But what seemed to weigh most heavily on Carpenter's thin shoulders was serving as a role model for young people. She said, we only wanted to make a little music." Karen Carpenter died just when it seemed she was getting better. One of the saddest facts of Karen Carpenter's melancholy life is that, when she died in 1983 of heart failure, she seemed to be on the mend. The day before she died could not have been more typically boring and suburban. She spent the day shopping for a washer-dryer and the evening with her parents. The three of them had dinner at Big Boy, she had a shrimp salad, and then settled in to watch bad TV together. Conspicuously absent from her final hours was the drama surrounding what her family referred to as her overdieting. She even ate a few tacos while she watched TV. Her brother and musical partner, Richard, had every reason to believe she was on her way to recovery after an 8-year battle with disease. At least her heart, weakened from years of starvation dieting and abuse of the expectorant, finally gave out. Although Karen Carpenter's life story is tragic, it was she who gave us unforgettable songs, a marvelous voice that inspires many people to this day. I hope you enjoyed this video. Write in the comments what Carpenter's song you are still listening to, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon.